Now, the African Travel Commission is calling for its members to endorse Gloria Guevara for Secretary-General for the United Nations Tourism Organization post. ATC says that the incumbent Secretary-General Zurab Pololikashvili, who is completing his second term, must not be allowed to alter established norms and attempts to secure a third term. Now, 6 candidates are currently running for the leadership of the UN Tourism Organization. But for more on this matter, we join now by the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy President and former Minister of Tourism and Hospitality Industry in Zimbabwe, Walter Mzembi. Thanks so much for your time this morning, Walter. But of course, 6 candidates standing for election. And why are you endorsing Gloria Guevara for this Secretary-General for UN Tourism post?
First and foremost, thank you very much for affording me this opportunity to air my views on this subject matter. We are endorsing Gloria because she has basically acquitted herself in the field of global tourism, first as Minister of State for Tourism for the Republic of Mexico during the time that we were ministers ourselves, myself, the likes of Martinez in South Africa, Derek Hanekom. She is a familiar figure and very competent in the field of tourism. And secondly, because she then ascended to the post of Chief Executive Officer of the private sector body, which is a partner to the UNWTO itself, UN Tourism, and that is the World Travel and Tourism Council. She was the Chief Executive of largely over 200 industry bodies, the largest in the world. So she comes from both the public and private sector. And lastly, because in the last deployment, she was actually the special advisor to the Minister of Tourism in Saudi Arabia. And you know, Saudi Arabia is just emerging out of being a closed state in terms of tourism. She was able to go there and open it up for international arrivals and other policy changes that have made that a choice destination in global tourism. But even more importantly, because she's a woman, and we are basically following the principle of making sure that also women are given an opportunity to lead international organizations in line with the Beijing Declaration of 1995. So I think it's time for a woman to go at the helm of global tourism. But lastly, because in the tradition of UN agencies, a man or woman must come and serve 2 terms and go. If he's not able to achieve anything within the 2 terms, then tough luck. And this current incumbent, Zurab Pololikashvili, whom you just mentioned, is now vying for a 3rd term, breaching the traditions and protocols of UN agencies, that after 2 terms, it's time to take your bags and look back at your legacy and allow other people to take over from you. Even in the United States, where President Trump has been prompted to even look at his 3rd term, you have seen how graciously he has basically declined it to say 2 terms, it's enough for anyone who knows what he's doing to basically plant a legacy that you can look back at proudly.
And just a final one, Mr. Mzembi, is there sufficient consensus or support for Gloria Guevara, given that in 2017, when you were vying for this position, we saw some African countries withholding their support. But do you think that they are ready to throw their weight behind Gloria? And also, what's in it for Africa?
The Global South, whenever it is presented with an opportunity to implement change or effect change in these international systems, it unfortunately votes with the Global North. This is an ideological convulsion on the part of most African countries. When they are presented with an opportunity to put their own into position, they actually vote to the contrary or vote in the opposite. And Mexico is part of the Global South. It is almost a natural that Africa should vote with Latin America in this coming election. Europe has held perpetually this post of Secretary-General for as long as the UN tourism was in existence, since 1975. They've held it almost a record 4 times. And I think in the spirit of reciprocity and rotational equitability, it should move to the Global South. And the Global South this time is actually represented by Gloria. Now, what is in it for Africa? She can couple with an African in the management of the UN tourism when the time comes, obviously, when she has to choose her own cabinet to run UN tourism. In 2017, we were given the opportunity to run as Africa, obviously, as you correctly pointed out, with 2 countries in Africa basically voting with the global north. But that in itself was also a product of our own politics in Zimbabwe, where the world perhaps was not ready to see the ascendancy of a Mugabe protege to preside over a UN agency, and I was told that very bluntly during the General Assembly. But as compensation for that, we offered the Deputy Secretary-Generalship of UN tourism, which was never taken up after our own administration changes in Zimbabwe in November 2017. So there was no continuity in terms of insisting that an African become Deputy Secretary-General. And the incumbent, who is now running for a 3rd term, did not honor that gentleman's agreement that was concluded in Chengdu in China 2017 during the 22nd General Assembly. So he doesn't love Africans to the extent that people think he loves them, because he should have honored that pledge, that gentleman's agreement, which would have seen an African deputizing him for the last 8 years. So I think let's try somebody else with better integrity and memory of what needs to be done. And it is in this case Gloria Guevara Manzo of Mexico as a Global South candidate.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Walter Mzembi, Institute of Cultural Diplomacy President and former Minister of Tourism and Hospitality Industry in Zimbabwe, calling on African countries to endorse Gloria Guevara as Secretary-General for UN Tourism post.